Welcome to Short-Handed Sailing with me, Pip Hare and Key Yachting. In this series, we're going to break down the key manoeuvres that double-handed teams must execute and show you how only two people can sail a performance boat like this J99 safely and efficiently. All these tips apply for cruising boats as well, so it's for anyone who wants to make the most out of their boat when sailing with only two people. Sailing upwind short-handed, it's about finding a good equilibrium. Angle of heel, not too much helm on the boat, and getting really well set up with trimming your mainsail. But it's also one of the times that a double-handed crew can find rest or get an opportunity to do navigation or small jobs around the boat. If you can get your boat set up really well with the mainsail in the right shape, then the autopilot will be able to do a really good job upwind, which means you can drop down to solo watches and get some rest. One of the most important things sailing upwind when you're double-handed is controlling the angle of heel and limiting the movement of the helm. You don't have that righting moment of crew sitting on the rail, so the boat is going to get overpowered a lot earlier than it might normally. So make sure that you're using all of the controls available to you to control that heeling moment of the main and the power that you're feeling through the rudder. So on this J99, we can use backstay, traveller, and the main sheet gross and fine tune to really keep a constant angle of heel and the boat going really nicely. Don't forget that you also need to think about your jib twist as well. So as the breeze increases, you're going to go to a twisted shape earlier than you might normally if you were fully crewed. So that will be main sheet out and traveller up. And if you're twisting the main in that way, you also need to think about twisting off your jib by just letting that jib car come back and the clew go up in the air. Your autopilot is your third crew member, and don't be shy to use it, because quite often it's going to steer much better than a tired helm, but it also allows you to look properly at the trim and to do other things on the boat. Steering upwind, you want to put your autopilot into wind mode, and it should be steering to the apparent wind. Double check, particularly if you've got an autopilot that selects whether it's on true or apparent itself. Do make sure once you've engaged it that it's on apparent wind. And then use +1 adjustments to find exactly the right balance. And I normally set it so the inside telltale on my jib is just lifting ever so slightly as we go over waves. When I'm on deck on my own sailing upwind, I quite like to have all of the controls, or as many controls as possible, close to the helming position so that I can helm and look after the boat trim as well. And when I'm doing that, it's really great option to be cross-winched. So if I've got, even when I'm reaching, to be cross-winched is really nice because everything is on the windward side and I can easily move forward, gently adjust that jib trim as well as the main trim from where I'm sitting. Tacking short-handed is about getting the right speed of the rate of turn for conditions and also for your crew. The idea is that you're turning the boat fast enough to get through the tack, but slow enough so the crew can actually get the majority of the jib in without winding. Going into the tack, I would set the traveller up to be locked into the middle, and the crew can do this while the helm is focusing on the course. In windier conditions, it's a good idea to ease a little bit of main sheet. It will slow you down going into the tack, but it means when you come out of the tack, the main isn't going to power the boat up and fire you straight back into the wind. Load up your windward winch and put the handle in ready. Going into the tack, you're going to let the leeward side off a little bit earlier than you might normally with a full crew, and then just pull like crazy on the windward side And the helm is going fairly quickly into the tack, but then slowing down that rate of turn coming out of the tack to allow me to get the majority of that jib sheet in. So we're turning up into the wind quite quickly, and I'll do an early release, all the wraps off, and then pulling on hard, nice slow rate of turn coming out, which just allows me to trim the final bit in with a small grind. It's really nice to be able to tack the boat with the autopilot when you're double-handed as well. It means that if somebody's off watch and you need to tack or sail an upwind leg, then you don't have to get them up every single time. All autopilots that can steer to wind will have a tacking function. Make sure that your autopilot is set up to steer on apparent, and then you normally have a choice. You can normally steer through a set amount of degrees, or you can go to a reciprocal angle. The other thing that you might want to play with a little bit on your autopilot is the speed at which you are tacking. Just like we regulate the speed for the sea state and the wind conditions if a human is driving, you can do the same thing with an autopilot. And then other than that, it's the same principle as if there was a human driving. So going into the tack, I'm going to drop the traveller to the middle, and then in breezier conditions, I'll just ease the main sheet to make sure that immediately out of the tack we don't drive back into the wind. Setting up my new sheet, and then I'm going to ask the pilot to tack. Nice early release on that sheet. Once the jib's set, we can then move up to trim the main again. If you let the main sheet off, then pull it back on, and off we go again.